Next, we have our DOGE Committee coming to give us an update. If our law enforcement folks can let them in, we'd appreciate it. Thank you for being with us. And I see Manager Tucker, who's walking out also, who's been with us. Senator Lakey, Representative Ehlers, please come forward. Go ahead and take your seat here if you'd like. We don't know who's going to begin. Okay. Go ahead.
Co-chairs Senator Todd Lakey and Representative Jeff Ehlers. We co-chair the DOGE Committee, and we're going to kind of tag team.
Great.
Based on the topic. Then I think Representative Ehlers has the first one. Okay.
Very good.
All right, co-chairs.
Representative Ehlers, please identify yourself by name for the record.
I will. Representative Jeff Ehlers, District 21, Meridian. Good to be here with you today, co-chairs and members of JFAC. So we're presenting today the work to date of our DOGE Task Force. That's made up of 4 senators and 4 representatives. And one of the reasons we're coming here through JFAC is because all the work that we're going to do will have to go through the normal legislative process. And a lot of that is going to go through your joint committee here because so much of it is impactful on the work that you do. So we wanted to keep you up to date on what we've been doing. So we've met 4 times, and we have another meeting coming up in a couple of weeks. And in fact, some of the members of our task force are on JFAC as well. We appreciate their work. We are reviewing the provisions of code cleanup. So we passed last year, I believe it was House Bill 14, requiring agencies to go look at their relevant sections of statute and identify those that just needed to be cleaned up. We had a lot of submissions, I think, I don't know, hundreds of submissions. How about that? And some of them were what we were looking for. Some were not exactly what we were looking for. But we're going through the ones right now. We've reviewed over 100 provisions and have moved those on to be repealed. So a lot of this is outdated things that have dates on it, things that just aren't occurring anymore, that we found unnecessary. We are going to get through as much as we can. It might not all be this session, so we'll keep looking. The one piece we haven't looked at is the DOPL provisions. They have a lot of code cleanup there. So that's our first bullet point in your packet. We're on page 52 of your packet, by the way. If you want to follow along, we'll refer to some of those items as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, co-chair, senators, representatives. Todd Lakey, state senator from District 23.
Thank you.
And I'll cover a little bit on some of the work we're doing in regard to agency and government organization consolidation. And co-chair Ehlers mentioned that this may take some time. As we've gotten into it, it feels like this DOPL effort, whether it's a task force or an interim committee, is going to take more than just these few months. It looks like maybe a multi-year effort or ongoing effort. As far as the agency board commission consolidation or repeal, so far we've worked with the governor's office, and I think maybe we can go up a slide. There's the first one. Worked with the governor's office staff, DOPL, and our various committee members. And we have a couple of lists that we've put together. And they're lists they're working lists. We're in the process of listening and reviewing these particular proposals. And this first list we have is what we call low-hanging fruit. Those that seem to have the most opportunity to effectuate. It doesn't mean we've done any of these. Well, I can tell you which ones we've done a couple, but we're still listening. The effort here is to promote efficiency, less government, and cost savings. Those that we think will probably have a budget impact are probably number 3, number 4, 6, 7, 8, and 12. And we'll be coming with a recommendation. We don't know what those recommendations are necessarily at this point because we are still listening. But we have voted to bring forward legislation on number 9, the Columbia Compact Commission, repeal of that, and the One Plan Executive Group, that's in bill drafting at this point. Then we also have, and as I said, we're still listening. For example, at our next meeting, we're going to hear from the State Brand Board, and we're going to hear from the Department of Ag and see whether there's an opportunity to basically incorporate that board into the Department of Ag instead of having a separate brand board. And we'll be listening to a couple of other folks or give those folks an opportunity to do that. And then we have another list, which is, oh, sure, go ahead. We're kind of tag teaming here, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Identify. Folks that are listening can't necessarily see who's talking, so please identify yourself each time you speak.
Very good, thank you. Representative Jeff Ehlers again. So on the low-hanging fruit, which maybe was a misnomer because we're finding some of these are more work than originally anticipated. I just want to acknowledge we appreciate the good work on number 7 that the co-chair Horman is doing on that. She's made a lot of progress to date so far, and so appreciate that. We are inviting our colleagues' input on a lot of this as well, so if you see other things that you find that might be worth DOGE looking at, please bring those to our attention as well. And the other thing, some of these, like number 6, will be a multi-year thing, so you might not actually see a budget impact in the upcoming session. That one still has to be worked on, and so we plan on including JFAC in this as an impacts budget, so you can see what we're looking at, and maybe it might not be this session, it might be a future session that we have to change some budgets around based on the recommendations of the DOGE Task Force. Thank you.
Again, co-chairs Todd Lakey, State Senator from District 23. This is the next page of the list. These are some of the legislative ideas that we've received. We're gathering input from legislators. We also have a very robust public input portal. I think Co-Chair Ehlers is going to cover that a little bit more. These are just some of the ideas. We're in the process right now of kind of trying to gauge the committee members' interest and priorities among this list. Again, we can't do everything in this first effort, so we're trying to figure out where the priorities are with our committee members. And then the next list is kind of the more distant. Here's some things that we should probably look at in the future. And as we've adopted the list, that immediately generates some interest. Oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Not necessarily. They're just on our radar, and these are a little further out on the radar than the first 2 lists that we have. So that's kind of our effort thus far on the agency consolidation. Co-chair.
Yes, thank you. Representative Jeff Ehlers, once again. On some of those, there's a few others that maybe haven't been on the list that were in our other presentation. Combining the division of liquor and lottery is one we're looking at as well as looking at consolidating maybe one agency for the Commission on Aging, Vocational Rehab, the Commission for the Blind, Visually Impaired, Council for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, Development Disability Councils, and the State Independent Living Council. So we're looking at that. Of course, it involves so many agencies and councils and commissions that it takes a while to work through all that. But those are some that are on our radar. All right. The next thing that we've done, we'll go to the next slide. So we have a portal, legislature.idaho.gov/doge. And if you go there, we allow for the public to make comments, including anonymous comments if you wish. Part of that was to provide protection if anybody's working for an agency and commission and has an idea, wants us to look at, allow them to submit anonymously. And if you look at the next bucket, this was as of our last meeting in mid-October, so we're over 650 submissions right now to the portal. We're working our way through those, trying to make good responses to those or look into the ones that seem that they'll yield fruit. You can see the categorization of those, a lot on health, Medicaid, some opinions on the work that we're doing and the legislature in general, and then just various other ideas that have come forth from the public, which we appreciate, and we invite the public input. We're grateful for their ideas and the knowledge that they bring, and proposed solutions and ideas that we're taking a look at. So we do intend to go through those and to, as we work our way through them, and to investigate and comment on those as well. I think I'll take the next bullet as well. So some of the things we've been looking at, well, we've looked at travel policy, we've looked at telecommuting policy, work from home policies. We don't have yet any recommendations. I think some task force members are looking at some of those. A lot of the ideas are kind of standardizing those throughout the state and creating standard policies on travel and maybe some more efficiencies or things on the telecommuting policy. But we don't have any recommendations on that. But we do have a recommendation around FTPs and vacancies. So we've been looking, and also this is in your packet, page 57 through the next few pages. So, and I think this is probably familiar to the committee. I believe Mr. Bybee's prepared this and shared it with you all before. But we took a look at it. It's kind of a 5-year average of vacant positions. And that's the first report. And then the next report, starting on page 59, is a description of those positions. With those in orange, ones that are position not funded. And our task force took a look at this and thought there were some opportunities for cost savings there. On the bottom of page 58, you can see that historically that's 382 positions, which represents $57 million in appropriations, of which $47.8 million would be general funds. And so the recommendation from the task force, yeah, that was the 5-year average. If you look at page 63, the 381 currently. So that number pretty well ties closely to the 5-year average. Our task force has recommended, and one of the reasons we're here is that JFAC evaluate these, and for the ones that they deem unnecessary, essentially eliminate the funding for, withhold the funding and remove the positions. Now, we feel that your process is already in place to talk to these agencies, to have them come forward and present their case for which FTPs they need or which positions they don't need, and make a determination on that. But we thought these were the ones that we recommend you could look at and examine for potential elimination.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Co-chairs again, Todd Lakey, State Senator from District 23. And just one of the last items we wanted to cover, it's listed on the front page of our slide deck, but we have talked a little bit about Medicaid expansion and received some comments about that. We are not at the point of making a recommendation, but some of our concerns with the expansion that was approved by the initiative 7+ years ago or so. The cost seems to be much more than what it was sold to the voters as far as the cost. We want to make sure that assistance is really there for the most vulnerable, the disabled. The work requirements issue is something that we've had as a priority, but they're dealing with that at the federal level, I believe. And then just the philosophy that assistance should be temporary, not a lifestyle. And what do we really have the ability to change? And as we've looked into that, that is somewhat limited. It appears to be kind of either you expand or you don't. It's hard to make adjustments at our level with the federal requirements on the nature of the expansion itself. So we're weighing those issues, considering them, and that's just another topic of consideration for the committee. You have anything else, Co-Chair?
Thank you. Just to add on that, and we have not put forward a recommendation. That's a large task on that one, and we're still looking at it. We appreciate your time. Oh yeah, this is Representative Jeff Ehlers again. I forgot to introduce myself. And we're happy to answer any questions that the co-chairs or the committee members might have on our work.
Thank you. We appreciate this presentation. Any questions for our DOGE folks?
Chairman.
Senator Ward Engelking.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
Woodward.
wow, I'm pretty flabbergasted here, I guess. But if I may, it seems to me that we voted not to do an interim DOGE committee. So I'm wondering how this task force came about.
Which one wants to? Go ahead, Representative Ehlers.
All right. Thank you, Co-Chair Grow and Senator Ward Engelking. Good question. So the leadership of both bodies has broad discretion on what interim committees or task force they would like to create. So although there was not legislation that passed both bodies, there is discretion within leadership to create a task force like ours. And so that's where it came about, and that's where we got our charge, essentially.
Thank you. Senator Galloway.
Chairman, Representative Ehlers, and Chairman Lakey. Question on the merging of some of the agencies. I understand in the private sector, when you merge two companies, you save on HR, accounting, some of those things. What efficiencies do you perceive by merging some of these agencies?
Take it.
Respond. Senator.
I'll go for this one. All right.
Again, okay.
Thank you, Co-Chair Grow and Senator Galloway. Good question. So I'll explain a little of the process, which I think would answer your question. We are certainly involving all the agencies or commissions and doing our homework to understand what a merge would look like. And so I think from there we can understand what efficiencies they anticipate through the merge. But some of the things that we're seeing is, let's say if you have two administrators, well, you only need one now. There's a cost savings there. Some of the back office staff is one of those as well. If you don't necessarily need all the back office again, you've merged it into one. So we do see some things there. I think in terms of, so the E in DOGE is efficiency. And I think we'll also see some efficiencies out of this as well. It may not translate into like a dollar cut, but it might be a more efficient service for the citizens of Idaho. Senator, anything you want to add?
Co-chairs, again, Todd Lakey, State Senator from District 23, and Senator Galloway. Co-chair Ehlers hit on most of the points. It's something we're evaluating. It may be beneficial to consolidate some, it may not. Part of it is also a consolidation of commissions into one. So you may have a reduction in the number of overall commissioners, and that may promote some efficiency and cost savings, where you had two larger boards and you consolidated into a board that may be larger than the existing board, but smaller than the two combined.
Vice Chair Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first heard I share, not vice chair, sorry. I thought you were going to talk. I'm going to share some comments from the coach.
Are the vice chair.
Thank you. My first question is along those same lines. When we talk about what's the most effective form of government, we often talk about local control and local decision making, and then when this idea of merging into a natural resources department where we have one person who can cover the gamut of issues from Department of Lands, Parks and Rec, DEQ, water resources. Where do we find that person? Because I think what it means is we're adding a layer, because right now, if we have a question on Department of Lands, the person who has that final authority is Director Miller, or we can talk to Director Buxton. Now we'll still have to have a person fulfilling that role to have that level of detail that they have. We add one person above them, and because they now have to turn and ask that person and commit and try and talk to that person and provide the details in the decision making. So I'm curious about the thought process on trying to merge those agencies as Idaho continues to grow. There are more details, more issues to cover. So I'd happy to, you have commented on it, but I'm sharing my thoughts, but open to hear anything more about trying to merge and find the superhuman to run those four agencies.
Senator Lakey?
Co-Chair and Senator Woodward, I think that's part of what we'll be vetting as we go through and listen and make a recommendation. In some cases, it may make sense. In some cases, it may not. An example that comes to my mind, not of those that you mentioned, but we have the separate depredation boards that deal with wildlife having an impact on our cattlemen and our ranchers. Do we need separate boards for wolves and bears and things like that? But that's part of what we'll be vetting. Is it really beneficial?
And just a separate question, Mr. Clerk.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Representative Ehlers wanted to add to that first question.
Thank you, Co-Chair Grow. Senator Woodward. Yeah, appreciate you sharing your perspective on that. That one's farther down the line, but one more thing to add is we are looking at what other states are doing. And so some of these ideas show it is possible because other states have created such a Department of Natural Resources to make all those things run. So we're going to look also to other states on how they have made it more efficient as well. And show us what's possible. And we certainly don't want to create layers of complexity or bureaucracy through our efforts. Our intention is to make it more efficient. And so we're going to look at it through that lens.
You had a follow-up?
yes, Mr.
Go ahead.
Co-Chair, could I respond? One
Go
more
ahead,
comment?
yeah, Senator Lakey.
Thank you, Senator Lakey from District 23. Again, our result will be recommendations, but we also have full confidence and trust in the legislative process, which any of this will have to go through. So there may be additional information or more information as we go through the legislation on a particular issue to even vet it further.
Follow-up, Vice Chair Woodward.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. And Mr. Tater, can we go back to the slide that had that long list of potential, the third page of that, further review? Thank you. So when we generate a list like this, I think I'm wondering if you're going back, the different ways to review this. All these were created for a reason at some time, so I think the question is, are they still applicable? So are we going back to the legislative library to understand what happened with the legislature, how that decision was made at the time? Are we calling in the leadership from these organizations? And then are we also soliciting input from the public or from those who are served by these? I think there's a lot of detail in each of these, and so this looks to me more like a list of what exists versus do something we've potentially identified a problem with.
Co-Chair Grow and Senator Woodward, this is the kind of further down the line list, so we haven't really dug into these in detail. It's more identifying potential opportunity, but the process you described is what we're going through. We are looking at the legislative history on these things. Some of those items that we've recommended for repeal, for example, haven't been utilized since 1975. So we're looking at legislative history, the purpose, and then we're, again, for example, the brand board. We're inviting folks to come talk about the need for the brand board compared to consolidating that with the Department of Ag. We will hear both from the brand board folks and the Department of Ag, and then we'll have an opportunity for public comment on that issue as well. So you kind of described the process that we are going through.
Did you want to add some more?
Yeah,
Go
thank
ahead,
you.
Representative Ehlers.
You get two of us today, Representative Jeff Ehlers, District 21 Meridian. To address some of that, we appreciate Mr. Tatro and his team actually have put together for our analysis the history of these, when it was formed, what statute it came from. So a lot of people jump on this list and their thoughts go to elimination immediately, like, oh, we're going to eliminate all of these. Well, we haven't said that. This is for further review. Some of this might be that they have had scope creep in their mission, that the statute says do A, B, and C, and now they're on to D, E, F, and so forth. So we're going to look at some of those things. It might not be elimination. It might be getting back to what the statute says. This is also, just to touch on one of your points, so there's 46 on here. If we were to put the list of everything that exists, it's like 225. So we've had a lot of growth in terms of commissions, agencies, divisions, and so forth. An approach hasn't been taken like this in the state of Idaho for decades, probably the late 70s, to reevaluate this under Governor Andrus. So there has been significant growth. I liken it to a tree. where if you don't trim it, it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And that's the point that we're at right now. So as all these will be looked at, but the outcome of that is to be determined.
Thank you. Vice Chair Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm really glad that you're doing this and not me. Thank you for that. And I'm sure you guys have had all of the conversation. I appreciate that. The first response to me when I look at this, is the intent of the original policy, the implementation of that policy. And certainly some of these areas require some autonomy and independence. And I think the brand board is a good example. As how does that exist in a nature of what it needs to accomplish, and how does it exist somewhere else? Or how do you combine that with something else and still achieve the original intent, and how does that work out? So I think those are really good discussions to have, and I'm glad you brought that up as an example, because that's one of the first ones that immediately appears to me, because it's part of what I do, right? So those are the things that I think the real struggle is, as far as the people that aren't a part of your original discussion adapting to that and trying to figure out how it works. So again, I appreciate your time, and thank you for being here and sparking all of the conversation that's going to occur following this.
So I heard a comment, not a question. Let's go to Representative Furness.
Thank you, Co-Chair and DOGE Committee. Appreciate you being there. I appreciate your willingness to listen, and I hear that from you, and I appreciate your willingness to dig in and dig deep. I just want to remind you, and maybe you can tell me if you've addressed this or not, but many of these, including the brand board, which I appreciate what Representative Miller said, many of these commissions are dedicated funds, meaning that they're paid for by the people that are actually using these commissions. And so there are no taxpayer dollars involved in many of these that are on this low-hanging fruit. And so while I appreciate your efficiency, they're functioning at a high level now, and they're getting the job done without taxpayer dollars. And so I would hope you would consider the funding mechanism in these commissions as you look at them, because if they're functioning without taxpayer dollars and they're working for the citizens and they're being efficient in the cattle industry, for example, I think maybe we shouldn't mess with it if it's not taxpayer dollars. So you might want to consider that as you're looking at that.
Response.
Thank
Representative
you,
Ehlers.
Senator Co-Chair, Representative Furness. Without getting into the weeds of this one, because there are certainly other sides to it that we're investigating and exploring, we will consider the source of the funds. We'll, look at all sorts of measures as well. And I'll just remind all of us, so whatever comes forward from the DOGE Task Force will have to go through the legislative process still. So we'll all get a chance to debate this. It'll go through committee. You'll have your chance on the floor. It'll have to get through both bodies. It'll have to get through the gentleman on the second floor as well. So I think whatever comes forward will have to have a majority support of what we're doing. So.
Senator Winthrop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and co-chairs. What an interesting endeavor. And what I'm really trying to do, honestly, is to recognize my bias and put it aside. Because I have to say, with what's happened federally I'm guessing we mimicked DOGE and Elon Musk, that the mindset there seemed to just cut, hack, and create chaos. So I appreciate that you're not wanting to do that. And I was so what I'm trying to put aside is my fear and anxiety about that and say, okay, we can all agree that government running effectively for our people is what we want. We want the best possible results for our people. So I'm trying to keep that mindset, and I'm hoping your committee is too. And so as you look at this, what I am asking of you, and if I would put my bias aside, maybe we look at our mindsets together, really hoping for an effective process, that we're collaborating with the directors of all these agencies. And the reason I think that is, I've had all these grandiose ideas before as a lawmaker, and then when I get in the weeds and start talking to people, especially stakeholders in criminal justice, as the chair knows, oh, it's a lot more complicated than I imagined, and maybe I better not pull that lever because something bad will happen. So I appreciate you saying you are working with each agency and collaborating deeply with them before you make recommendations at all. And then I really appreciate, I'm a little nervous about the Medicaid expansion thing, obviously, but I was glad to hear what you said, Senator, about really supporting the disability community. And when I look at your list, there are some things there, like the silk and those kind of things that are established under federal law, the Rehabilitation Act of 1973, for example. And so we have to be really careful if we're really wanting to help the disability community, especially right now. We need to bolster those groups, not trim them too hard or unintentionally combine, and then we really lose kind of that one-on-one that is so important in that community. So I'm going to put my anxiety aside and really try to think deeply with you. And if folks are contacting us saying, I never was consulted or I don't feel like I was collaborated with, I'm going to go right to you guys and refer them to you to talk, because it sounds like you're committed to doing that. So that's more of a comment, but maybe my question is, on some of those things that do require that are in federal law, like how are you taking that into consideration?
Thank you. Representative Ehlers, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Co-Chair and Senator. We are taking federal into consideration. I think one of the questions is, if it's a federal mandate, is that the right place for it to be housed, or can we do it elsewhere? So I would say also that you'll see in our November meeting, every one of these on the low-hanging fruit, well, the ones we haven't acted on yet, the directors being invited or the commission chair or whatnot. And then even on our further review list, just so you know, I've already had the directors of a lot of these reach out to me, and I'm taking their phone calls, I'm taking their meetings. So some of them are being proactive already and meeting with us. So we are taking those steps.
For just a quick follow-up.
Very quickly, because we're 5 minutes over, we got more questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Representative Ehlers. I really appreciate that. I guess what I'm suggesting in that mindset is for us to initiate the contact, not to just put it out there and create fear and apprehension, and then people start calling you and clamoring, right? That's what I'm asking for, is if we're really looking for effective government, let's partner and hold hands. Just like yesterday, the coach asked us to join arms together. So that's what I'm asking.
Thank you. Senator Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Ehlers or Senator Lakey. First of all, thank you for doing this. I know you guys have probably had a lot of meetings, and so you've come to this point after much work. My question is, have you been able to, and I might have missed it, have you been able to involve the governor's office or get the governor's opinion on some of these items?
Yes, I will take that. Co-Chair Gross, Senator Carlson. Yes, and now to respond to the initiative, we certainly are taking initiative. If you look at my calendar, these last couple months, we're reaching out to these, and the governor's office is involved in these conversations because we recognize we want our work to be effective, and it's going to have to go through the governor's office as well as both bodies. So we are certainly being collaborative there.
Representative Piskey.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, both of you co-chairmen, for being here and for your work on this project. It's definitely a big one. I appreciate the emphasis on efficiency, and I'm wondering if you're also considering how this will impact transparency of government in the budgeting process. And the reason I ask that is because the bigger, my experience in this committee has been, is that the bigger a budget gets, it gets harder and harder to figure out what exactly is in it, right? You know, Congress does a pretty good job of hiding a lot of things in their 12 bills that they run every year. And so, like, for example, legislative idea number one, Department of Finance and Department of Insurance being combined, those are huge agencies, right? If you combine those, you're making it even bigger. It might be easier or make it more difficult for us to really dive into the details there. Same thing, obviously, with natural resources. So I'm just wondering if transparency is something that you're also considering as you look at efficiencies.
Senator Lakey.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Todd Lakey, State Senator from District 23, and Representative Petsky. I would say that is also part of what we're considering. You pointed out one that I'm probably a little more skeptical of. And combining the Department of Insurance and Department of Finance, they seem like they're big responsibilities. And so I'd go into that idea myself with a little skepticism for some of those same reasons. But transparency, I think, is part of efficiency and providing the best service from government. So that's certainly in my mind, and I think in our minds.
Quick comment from Vice Chair.
Thank you,
Woodward.
Mr. Co-Chair. Just still not quite clear on how that list of 46 different entities were created. And I asked that because when I look at, I know you heard from Representative Saunders in regards to the Lakes Commission, which exists entirely in District 1. And I know that the executive director, the members of that commission, no one was spoken to. That's why I'm trying to understand how this list of 46 were created.
You want to take that one? Yep.
Quick response.
Thank you, Senator and Senator. Representative Jeff Ehlers. So this came from ideas from our legislative colleagues here. It came from the DOGE portal. It came from reviewing some of the information and packets that we were given, all 225, and selected some that looked like opportunities. But I think it's premature for us to reach out to all of these commissions right now in the process. And so I wouldn't get too excited if all 46 of these have not had an in-depth interview from a DOGE task force. We're not even there yet. So it's a little preliminary there, but we will certainly, as we go along, do our homework, and we're committed to that.
Co-Chair Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. I want to respond to Representative Petsky's comment. The base budget builder tool that we previewed in October is a game changer along the lines of what you're talking about. Whether it's a combined agency now or a separate agency, we will have full access to what has been in those budgets for years. What are we at, 2 decades almost? A decade? I can't remember now. And so regardless of what happens at their level, we now have access to tools to go back as many years as we care to see those appropriations. Second, I just want to thank you. We asked you to be as specific as you could in the agencies that have come forth through your portal, through other means, because it does impact the way we schedule hearings. It may impact that. And so we did ask them to be as specific as they could. So as we're setting a budget schedule for the upcoming session, which will look a little differently because of the things we've talked about in these 3 days. So I want to thank you for that, even though I know some of it is very preliminary. I appreciate you being as specific as you could so that we have a heads up on our schedule planning process. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. I'll just make this concluding comment, and we're 11 minutes over already, cutting into the next presentation. But we thank you for the work you're doing. I empathize with the amount of detail you're trying to go through here. It's amazing. And we appreciate all that you're doing. And we appreciate the committee, obviously very engaged in questions and interest, and we'll be very interested in what comes from recommendations. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
Co-chairs, thank you.